It was a little less than a year ago that the Kansas City Chiefs traded away Tyreek Hill. They ended up winning the Super Bowl the following season, so clearly it was the right move, right? Well, maybe. I think it doesn't necessarily mean that it was the right move, even though they went on to win a Super Bowl. But I thought it would be interesting to go back, look at what they ended up getting from Tyreek Hill in the trade, what they ended up using that on, and then how it ended up benefiting them in a Super Bowl victory. So let's just get into it. So first things first, the trade itself. This is what they got from the Tyreek Hill trade. 5 draft picks, a first rounder, pick number 29, a second rounder, pick number 50, and then a fourth rounder, that's pick number 121. On top of that, in 2023, they have a fourth and a sixth, so they still have a couple of picks they have yet to use. But that's the actual capital they got from this trade. However, they did not necessarily go out and use those picks the way you would expect. In fact, they didn't draft in those spots at all, in any of those spots of those 3 picks that we knew where they were going to have. They traded all 3 of those picks. So first, they traded 2 of them in a single trade. They traded pick number 29 and pick number 124, along with pick number 94, which was the pick that wasn't involved in that trade, for pick number 21. So they traded up with the Patriots in that situation, and that's not the only trade they would make. They traded number 50, pick number 50, the one that they got from Miami, to receive pick number 54 and 158. So they went back 4 spots and got an additional pick. That additional pick, guess what they did? Yep, you guessed it. They traded that one as well, along with pick 233 for pick 145. So a lot of moving parts here. But just to too long, didn't watch what happened. Basically, just they traded some picks, but let's talk about who they got. These were the 3 guys they ended up with after all of these trades were complete. Now they still ended up, they give up a couple more picks to get this to happen. So there's a little asterisk there, but still, Trent McDuffie, Sky Moore, and Darian Kinnard were the 3 pieces. Trent McDuffie was the highlight of this trade, basically, that they got back. Trent McDuffie was a really good corner for them, and continues to be a really good corner for them. We expect good things from him. Sky Moore was hyped up, didn't necessarily deliver on the hype, but still he played a role in this Super Bowl for sure. Darian Kinnard, I remember liking him coming out of college. He was one of my guys who I felt like people were too low on, but he did not have a snap this season. So did not help them out too much this year, but potentially in future years it could. But for the draft capital, just Trent McDuffie and Sky Moore. But it was not just draft capital that they got from the Tyreek Hill trade, right? It's draft capital plus $30 million in cap space, because that's what Tyreek Hill is getting paid with Miami, and what we assume the Chiefs would have ended up paying him had they decided to keep him, because it seemed like he wanted a new contract and wouldn't play on his current contract. So this is the total chart of, these are the most notable free agents that the Chiefs were able to get in the offseason. Tyreek Hill at the top, he is the one who they left. $30 million is how much he's getting paid. And then per year, Juju Smith-Schuster is getting paid $7 million. Justin Reed is now getting paid $10 million. MVS, that's Marquez Valdes-Scantling, is getting paid $10 million. And Carlos Dunlap, $3 million. I actually just picked the most notable free agents I saw on the list, and it just so happened that those guys worked out to be the exact contract as Tyreek Hill. So kind of works out that it feels like if they didn't trade Tyreek Hill, they either wouldn't have signed these players or would have cleared money somewhere else to then be able to sign these players. So this is the final list of who they got from the Tyreek Hill trade, and it's just an interesting list. It's an interesting thing to talk about. You have Juju Smith-Schuster, Sky Moore, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. 3 solid contributors at the wide receiver position. None of them were stars this year by any means, and in fact, you could even argue that some of these felt like they were, not living up to the resources they spent on those guys throughout this season, but they all had key parts of this run at different parts in the game. Sky Moore had the big punt return late in the AFC Championship game. Juju Smith-Schuster had a big Super Bowl. Marquez Valdes-Scantling had a big conference championship game. So these were definitely 3 contributors throughout. Carlos Dunlap, he was a significant and I would say a very solid rotational defensive lineman for them. Maybe he isn't a superstar. Again, none of these guys are Tyreek Hill's caliber of just notoriety, but he definitely made some plays. Justin Reed was a solid starting safety for them. I would say actually a good starting safety for them. I don't know if they needed him this season, and is he living up to the $10 million price tag? You could argue that, but he was good for them this year, so I definitely think that, you feel good about having him on your team for sure. And Trent McDuffie, as I said, McDuffie really was the star of this trade. He's the one guy that they look at and say, this was why we were able to be successful. So, again, getting 6 solid contributors for one player is pretty good. Being able to get that many different guys is obviously going to help your team out a lot. I think some people have jumped to the conclusion of, well, this is why you just don't pay stars in general. Clearly, the Chiefs were smart in getting rid of Tyreek Hill. I actually don't know if that's true, and I still don't know if I would do the Tyreek Hill trade, even though it ended up winning a Super Bowl for the Kansas City Chiefs. But here's what I do think happened. I think once the Chiefs committed to trading Tyreek Hill, whether you agree with that decision or disagree with that decision, they absolutely played every other thing perfectly and also had a great draft on top of it. Not just the 6 guys I have next to me, but really there was not just those 2 guys that were in this draft on my list, but also there were 5 more contributors they got in this previous draft. I mean, that's a huge ability to get a ton of players, just in one offseason, really, that was able to help your team and contribute to you winning a Super Bowl and building probably a better team around Mahomes than they had last year, even though they lost Tyreek Hill. I still think there was a way they could have gotten a key number of these players that you see on this list without getting rid of Tyreek Hill. I think that was possible. There could have been other ways to clear up cap space, and that's probably the move I would have gone with personally. However, just because it maybe wasn't, I can make that argument as much as I want. The reality is, I think there's no denying the Chiefs are in a better spot today after the Tyreek Hill trade than they would have been had they kept Tyreek Hill on the roster. They have a more complete roster, and Tyreek Hill, he's not getting any younger. So it always felt like it was a move that would maybe hurt them in the short term, but help them in the long term. To me, that's how I always felt this move was. But the fact that they were able to still win a Super Bowl in the short term is a testament to the job Brett Veach did at using those resources, maybe not perfectly, but perfectly enough. And he definitely made the right decision of not just getting one receiver like the Packers did, but getting 3 receivers in the room that could potentially be, not a Tyreek Hill replacement necessarily, but can replace the value of Tyreek Hill to some degree. And what they lost in a superstar, they gained in depth. And football, at the end of the day, is a sport of depth. And it also helps when you get, again, good starting safety and a, maybe future star corner who was still a good corner this year. And hey, Carlos Dunlap did some nice things, and who knows, maybe Kennard will end up being a good player for them as well. It's impossible to say. But yeah, so the retrospective of the Tyreek Hill trade, kind of my final thoughts are, it was a bold move. I still don't know if it was the right one. I think a healthy debate can still be had. Was it the correct decision or was it not? But what they did with this decision is they had a plan throughout. It wasn't just trading him and then seeing what happens. They replaced the impact that they needed to have at the wide receiver position and were able to get help elsewhere. I don't know if they don't win a Super Bowl without the guys next to me. Maybe they do if they instead have Tyreek Hill, but the reality is this move helped them win a Super Bowl, and because of that, you have to say it's a good move, I think. So that's what I'll say, because when you win a Super Bowl, you get a ring, it's a good trade. That's kind of the end of the discussion, I suppose. But, was it, I still think there's an interesting debate to be had there. But that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.